welcome to Taking It to the Streets. I'm your host, Andy Goldman from sunny St. Pete, Florida. This is the show where we take it to the streets, knowing if we don't, the streets will take it to us. Welcome to Taking It to the Streets. It's Andy Goldman, another edition here with Rich Beem for the upcoming week, which will, of course, be a little bit of a respite from where we've been, coming down to the Rocket Mortgage tournament from what has been just unbelievable if you're a fan, full with drama, unbelievably difficult if you were a player at this. We're going to layer all that kind of stuff. Before we do, the show is brought to you by Wrightwood Medical, WRIGHTWOOD medical.com. Your leader in refurbished medical equipment. Feel free to call them at 773-848-7100. Again, 773-848-7100. Beemer, a good afternoon to you, my friend. This is only off the road. We always catch you in these seedy Motel 6s along the ways and means of America, and it looks gorgeous in back of you.
It is, yes, I'm finally home for, let's see here. I got to leave my house in 12 hours or so. I've got a 5:30 a.m. flight up to Detroit. So it's about an hour to get to the airport. So I came home. It was my daughter's birthday yesterday. We had a great time. And now I'm busy fighting smoke detectors in the house. They keep beeping. I keep trying to figure out what is wrong with them. I replace batteries. That doesn't seem to work. So I'm not too sure what is going on. So, yes, it's always fun being home.
The wife and I, this past week, went and saw Lou Gramm at the Palladium Theater here in St. Petersburg, Florida. Great old theater. They don't have too many rock shows there. For those that know Tampa or St. Pete, it's kind of the symphony crowd, that kind of thing. So when they had the reschedule of the reschedule of the reschedule for Lou Gramm, I was all in. So my wife and I went to see Lou Gramm. I wanted to get your take on where I'm kind of going with this. Of course, the founding father of Foreigner.
Yeah.
Our rock and roll fans out there that know Lou Gramm, Mick Jones are the guys that created Foreigner way back when. Folks, that chirp is not you or your brain or your alarm system. That is Beemer's alarm system going crazy in the background.
Yeah, that's where smoke detector. Yeah, this is the only place. Yeah, so yeah, but we got to deal with it.
So we're at the Palladium. We're enjoying Lou Gramm's show. His voice is completely shot. It's not the Lou Gramm of 10, 15. Surely not the Lou Gramm of when he was with Foreigner. Where am I going with it? So I'm there watching it, right in between Midnight Blue, all the classics, Cold as Ice. It starts to dawn on me why this guy left Foreigner in the first place. Why Robert Plant left Led Zeppelin. Why David Gilmour left Pink Floyd. You know where this is headed. Why Joaquin Neiman left the PGA. Why Dustin Johnson left the PGA. And can it ever be mended? They're not nearly as good away from their original band as they are alone. And now we're at that crossroads, Beemer, where the word on the street is the Live guys want to come back to the PGA. Okay? Now, short of bringing a check for $30 million to be dispersed between the loyalists, that was an old term used in revolutionary times in America, the loyalists, and that money should be dispersed to the loyalists that stayed with the PGA, I don't know where we're going with the conversation. And I think the same could be said of a lot of those rock fans. Once you leave, you got to keep on walking because it's. I don't know if they can come back. Is there a corollary I'm making that's apropos to that? Can Bryson DeChambeau ever come back to the PGA Tour?
I mean, I think that he's one of the few that are still eligible to. Yeah, I mean, you've got he and Brooks Koepka who have won majors the last couple seasons, so they are fully exempt because of those major championship wins. Yes and no, the correlation piece of it, because sometimes I think that lead singers just go off on tangents because they want to do something a little bit different. They want to explore different music genres. They want to do something different. I mean,
but Beemer, if you're different than a guy that didn't want to travel as much as it's required in the PGA and wanted to play 54 holes versus 72 and wants to play in shorts versus long pants. And why is that not the same analogy as someone that wants to explore their creative juice as a solo act?
Well, I think it's more of a business relationship that I related to. I mean, it's more like a guy that built up his business and was very successful at his business and decided to sell his business to another corporation and then take a job within that corporation. I look at more of it from a business standpoint than it is anything creative. I don't think that these guys who truly went to live because of any other reasons besides financial. For them to say, "Oh, we're growing the game, we're doing this, we're doing that." Well, that was the original statement these guys came up with. But I think as we've seen over the last couple of years, that's not fact. I mean, I don't know how they're growing the game anywhere around the world. I think that they have a different product. I think that from what I understand, the few people that I know have gone to watch the Lib, they enjoyed it. They enjoyed their time. They enjoyed a piece of it, but it's just for 3 days in their own market. And do they have loyal followings now because of that? It doesn't sound like it to me. I could be wrong on that, but I think it's more of a financial. Um, the reasoning is more financial than it is for trying to be different creative genres, things like that. I think that they decided to explore, I guess would be a good way of putting it, what this is all about. But they got a big check to do that. It's not like they just went over there um, with no money in their pocket. Even some of the original guys that went, even some of the lesser known guys. In fact, one of them was playing this week in the Rocket Mortgage. He won the U.S. Amateur a few years ago. He's playing in the Rocket Mortgage after being on LIV for a couple of years. So there is a way to get there. James Piot. I'm drawing a blank on his last. He won the U.S. Amateur a few years back, but if signed with LIV, wanted to go kind of test those waters. And probably, from a financial standpoint, probably could have used the money and get some valuable experience about playing golf against some of the best in the world and traveling around the planet. But I think at the end of the day, unless rock stars were getting, the lead singers are getting a massive check up front to go their own route. It's not quite the same thing in my mind's eye, Andy, but it's got some similarities there to it.
I just don't know where we're going. I think Brian Rolap's got himself a big issue at hand to try to forge.
Well, we're not. Well, the new CEO, apparently we're not pursuing anything with LIV anymore. LIV is for the PGA Tour and LIV to come together. From what I'm hearing, is pretty much dead in the water. Now, whether or not the contracts are up with certain players and they want to come back to the PGA Tour, then they'll have to sit down. And I don't think it'll take them writing a check for money, because I don't necessarily think that's true. And to be fair, the guys that didn't go, they've been massively compensated. I mean, there's been some trickle down effects from the group that came in that bought $1.5 billion stake in the PGA Tour.
Some would say the guys that I'm calling loyalists owe a thank you to the guys that went to the LIV because of these signature events that have occurred that didn't occur before.
Well, of course they do. I mean,
And the fields have gotten easier because these guys have left. So the signature events have become more attainable for guys that have been on the go.
in order for these guys to come back, I think there's just a handful of ways. One, two, if you're fully exempt, come on back, Bryson DeChambeau, Brooks Koepka. Dustin Johnson has got over 20 PGA Tour wins, 2 majors. I think he's lifetime exemption on the PGA Tour. Same thing for Mickelson. But the rest of them, if you want to come back, you got to go through the other channels of qualifying, getting sponsors invites. I think there should be maybe a limit on how many signature events the guys that went to LIV could play in. Instead of all 8 of them, they can only play in 4 of them, for example. I don't know, but I think that limiting these guys kind of defeats the purpose. I think that if they're fully exempt, let them back in. If they're not fully exempt, then they're going to have to go through qualifying school and get some status back. I mean, no disrespect to Joaquin Neiman. He's won 4 times this year on Live, leading money winner. But, unless he gets the world ranking points to be in the top 50 in the world and to get some exemptions on that, then I don't know what to tell you. He's been making a ton of money through Live and PIF. So, I mean, if he decided not to update his contract or renew his contract with Live and wants to come back and play on the PGA Tour, well, you got to figure out the avenue. You got to figure out, just like you were when you were a young man, he's going to have a lot more money in the bank than anybody coming out of college or just starting. But I don't think that it could be as easy as like I want to come back and play on the PGA Tour because I've won on the PGA Tour. That's just not it. I mean, like, listen, I've won 3 times on the PGA Tour. I can't go play on anything that I want to. In fact, I'd have to go through qualifying school to get any kind of status back, or any meaningful status back on the PGA Tour. I don't think they should be any different.
Beemer, please don't tell me you're going to take the back of Tommy Fleetwood. I found it unbelievable what he did on Sunday. I blame everything of his demise on himself. I'll give you, we don't have to unpack the entire last round, which he played so timidly on the back 9. It's unbelievable, especially with how brave and how determined he was on Saturday, where I watched this whole tournament. He was so absolutely determined to win this thing from the onlooker's perspective. I saw a different guy on Sunday, a real different guy on the backside, a real different guy in the last 4 holes. I'll give you even all of the demise, which I put up there with Rich. I think the meltdown is right there with Norman at Augusta and Phil at Wingfoot. But if you really, Rich, him on 18, he on 18 is unforgivable, and it's 100% his fault. And even if I gave you the equipment change, he took the other club down, obviously, instead of sticking with his original club on the second shot to give himself a nice 60-footer, which only Nick Taylor's going to make, or Bobby Mack or someone like that. When Keegan Bradley puts his marker in, okay, this is if you're someone like me who's a 12 handicap and you're playing a skins game. When your opposition puts his marker into the ground, if nothing else, I have to get the ball past his marker, or he gets arguably one of the biggest advantages in sports, which is a free look. Okay? So he put that ball on a dead. You can't blame him for going towards Bradley's marker, because obviously that's where the ball and where the slope's heading. But you can blame him. I'm sorry, Rich. I know he's your guy. You can blame him for laying that ball 2 inches behind Keegan Bradley, giving him a free look and give up the tournament 12. I've said my piece. Where do you fall?
Well, I have a vested. I've got an interest that has more to do with the facts of life sometimes than and what it is there. Again, where Tommy I shouldn't say lost it, but where he didn't play well enough in the first 6 holes. Everybody was struggling, but he bogeyed the first hole, birdied 2, but then made a bogey with a wedge in his hand on 3 putted number 4, and didn't birdie 6. He lost the tournament there more than he did, I think, at the very beginning of, or the end of it. Granted, he had a 2-stroke lead. Keegan made an unbelievable putt on 15, which certainly helped because the tee shot on 16 went long for Tommy. Couldn't get it up and down. Keegan thankfully missed that one. The one on 18 was
It's unforgivable, Rich.
Well, listen.
He can't do that.
Listen, you can't. And I can understand everything that was going through at that moment in time. I was a little bit shocked to see him come up that short of the green. He had, what do you have? He had 140, either 47 or 42. I'm drawing a blank on which. Anyways, he needed to be past that hole. And when he came up short, he gave Keegan Bradley every opportunity to hit in there close, which he took advantage of. The putt coming up well shy, again, I don't know what was going on. I haven't had a chance to talk to him about it yet afterwards. And again, as a friend of his, Yeah, I can see everybody's point talking about how he choked it away. And listen, I think though that he came out and he didn't take the tournament into his own hands in the first 6 holes. He let everybody back into it that could have been back into it. He had a 3-stroke lead, and he he didn't put himself in play enough off the tee, and he gave himself some really wonky second shots in the first 6 holes. And he didn't go out there and put any heat on the other guys. He let everybody back into it. Everybody was struggling. It seems like the last couple of groups on Sunday. But I think where it didn't go his way wasn't the last 4. He should have never been in that position. To be fair, he should have had a comfortable probably 4 or 5-stroke lead going into 17. He should have, and he didn't. He made too many mistakes on the front 9, shot 2 over in the front 9. And again, windy conditions, I get it's not super easy, but it wasn't that hard. It was not that hard at all. And he didn't handle it very well. He didn't go out there and take it to the golf course like he should have. In saying that, yeah, he made a couple of mistakes. On the back 9, he left a putt on 12, a putt on 14, short. The birdie putt on 17, he raced by way too fast. And then 18, I don't know what happened, but you can't leave it there. You're right. It's like, wow, not too sure exactly what he was thinking, but I know what he was feeling, and he was feeling nothing. He had no feel in his fingers. He had no feel in his arms, his legs, his torso. He had no feelings whatsoever. He was just trying to get it into Alice as best possible. He literally, there was just nothing there feel-wise. It was probably the nerves going on were probably overwhelming. Painful.
The crowd shouting USA, USA.
Well, every single
He's on enemies. Yeah, it really felt like a Ryder Cup kind of moment.
But again, though, if he goes out and he mutes that crowd, Keegan made a couple. I mean, he made a birdie on the 9th hole out of absolutely nowhere. And then
he made 110 feet of putts on,
and I don't even know if that's. I don't know. Yeah, and so that one on 9 and 14 or 15 were like, holy cow,
crazy.
That was crazy. But that's what it takes to win tournaments. And I understand that. Again, when it comes to Tommy, he has his whole family there. And I'm sure he was thinking about a lot of different things. I ran into his family afterwards.
Had to have been devastated.
His youngest son, Frankie, he was so upset because he wanted to be on that green with his daddy on the 18th hole. And I was sitting there talking to his wife and listening to Frankie. And I'm just like, I was like, I got to get out of here. I'm too choked up to we had dinner together that week, family, his dad's there, all that. And it was just like, I feel sick for the guy. I feel not, you can't. And I wanted to be there for him, but I felt like, what, he's got his family here and I'm just going to kind of lead them be and whatnot. But I literally was sick for him because I know how much it beats him. I know how bad it hurts him. I know that it was never going to be an easy Sunday. Especially playing with Keegan. I think that was also one of the things that's kind of overlooked a little bit is that he was supposed to play with just Russell Henley until they made
the other part of it that got tricky was them. I have to ask them adding them to threesomes were change that Chad had because of that's what had
massive dynamic change. Okay, massive dynamic change. I think though, as players though, you always have to I don't want to say expect the unexpected, but you can't let the things that you can't control mess with you. And I don't even know. It's really funny because I went to bed that night and twosomes, no issue whatsoever. I woke up the next morning and I kind of saw some rain coming in, and parts of it looked like it could have gotten a little nasty. And all of a sudden I look at the tee sheet and everything had changed. I mean, it went from 2 balls to 3 balls and I'm going, oh boy. That part of it right there. And his tee time got moved up by an hour, I think, maybe an hour about an hour, because I think it was still going to be a 6 o'clock finish. So 2 o'clock would have been done by 6. But the going from twosomes to 3 ball is he and Russell Henley, but then you have Keegan in the mix and the United States, the USA chants all around the golf course. every time Keegan would walk down the fairways off of a green, birdies, whatever, it didn't matter.
But like US, it felt like a Ryder Cup.
That dynamic changed quite a bit. That dynamic,
And to you said,
well, success in
Rich, the other thing we're not talking about that was massive in that was Henley's chip in on 18, which was the shot.
God, you're amazed. Dude, that was amazing.
I think that really unraveled Tommy. Was that chip in? Now he knows he's got two bears in the room. He's not only got to fend off Keegan, but he's got to fend.
Well, but he was already 15 under par. So if he gets up there in two putts, he forces Keegan to make it to tie him and go into a playoff.
Well, as well as Henley's in the playoff too.
No. Tommy was 15.
No. Two. Bradley would have made a birdie, and they would have been the two.
Bradley would have had to make birdie in order to join Tommy in the playoff. Absolutely, it would have made Bradley's play a little bit tougher. It's tougher to
Beemer. How big was Henley's chip in? I thought that was.
Oh, it was crazy good. It was crazy good. And it was funny because it was actually sitting pretty good. I thought, he could probably get this thing up and down 6 out of 10 times. Just said that on air, and lo and behold, he chips it in. I'm going, well, I didn't see one of those 6 of 10s have been going in the hole, but he's a competitor. He's the guy that I want on the Ryder Cup on the U.S. side. He's a little quiet and sometimes unassuming, but make no bones about it. He is vicious. He wants to win in the worst possible way, and he's not going to back down from anybody or anything. He's a gamer.
Well, how does Bradley self-assess himself as far as being a member of this Ryder Cup team? Because Rich, he's playing as well as anybody in the country right now. We've just come through murderer's row from the Travelers, U.S. Open, the Memorial, the PGA, and the Truist. Keegan did as well as anybody. Those are all elevated and/or majors. And how does he elevate? Why is he not on that team?
Well, here's the funny thing: is that
I tried him the last time.
Well, yeah, and I think that he kind of took that to heart. But also, what I've read is that when he took the job, there was a number of people on the board who said, "Listen, we want you to be the first playing captain since Arnold Palmer. We know how much you love being on the team, we know how much you love and how much it means to be on the team. So we fully support you if you go ahead and qualify on your own. Because they only take 6 guys, and right now he's 9th. He's got Morikawa, who hasn't won this year in front of him. Ben Griffin, who's got a couple of wins. But then you've got, Scotty Scheffler, Xander Schauffele. Xander created a lot of his points last year with the 2 major championship wins. So Xander's going to have to, he's going to have to start playing a little bit better. I mean, that's just the basic facts. But then you've got J.J. Spawn, who's going to be a rookie. Henley, I think, is going to be a rookie. And then Ben Griffin, I think, is going to be on the team. That's going to be a rookie.
What about Cantlay?
Cantley's 14th right now.
Rich,
Cantlay hasn't won.
With all due respect, I know J.J. Spawn won the U.S. Open, but come on. Cantlay versus J.J. Spawn to me is a laugh. It's 100% Cantlay. The tournament was won, and
why do you say that? Because listen, Cantlay hasn't played very well this year. I'd have to take a look and see what his.
He's been living in the top 15. And we've just come through the last 5 tournaments. Patrick Cantlay has been playing great golf. He doesn't win, but nobody wins. And if he has to take a backseat to J.J. Spawn because Spawn won against King Kong, do you really think J.J. Spawn is a better player than Patrick Cantlay?
Right now he is. Absolutely, right now he is.
Rich. I don't have it in front of me.
You can go right ahead. Listen. So Patrick Cantlay has a bunch of, he lives in the top 15. He lives in the top 15, right? And that probably could be good enough to get him in. But I don't, listen, I'm going to defend, even if it was somebody else, but J.J. Spawn is playing better than Patrick Cantlay. He's had the same exact opportunities as Patrick Cantlay has. And he's gone out and finished runner-up at Sony Open Hawaii, or Miss South Bay Upper 1. He finished runner-up to Rory McIlroy, lost in the playoff there. And then he went out and he won the U.S. Open. Nobody gave it to him. He won the U.S. Open. Listen, you've also got, Maverick McNeely playing well. There's a lot of guys.
Patrick's league.
But listen, he has 6 picks, though. he's got 6 picks. So you got Keegan Bradley's got 6 picks. So, I mean, you got Morikawa, Ben Griffin, Harris English, Maverick McNeely, Brian Harmon, and then Patrick Cantlay. That's 14. So he's going to have to get rid of 2 guys out of those. If you look down,
Brian Harmon can go. Brian Harmon can go. I'm sorry. If it's he just can go. Brian Harmon had his moment at the British Open. It's been status.
he also won this year. Patrick Cantlay hasn't won in 2 years.
Yeah, but Rich, I thought if anybody would appreciate the solidness of being in the top 15 says a lot about where the state of your game is.
Okay. So look at Tommy Fleetwood's record this year. Where's he stand?
He's been great. But we're going to remember him for the heartbreak.
That's exactly what I remember. But listen, I think from a Ryder Cup team, yes, I think that Patrick Cantlay will be on our side. He still has plenty of time to qualify. That's not the issue. He's just going to have to play well, and he's going to have to. Yeah, he's going to have to put himself in contention more than once if he wants to make a team. But there's a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys there that are playing quite well.
Well,
at the moment. So
to your point, do we see Cantlay, who obviously knows he's on the cusp of the Ryder Cup, playing at the Rocket Mortgage? If he didn't know that he was on the cusp, there's no way he's playing this weekend. And he's playing close. He knows he's got to run a big one.
Of course he does. And I think that's exactly playing with Colin Morikawa as well, one of his pals. And I think at Keegan Bradley, I mean, look at that pairing. All Keegan Bradley is doing is telling these guys, listen, I'm winning. You need to get your shit together. Let's go. I mean, that's basically the gist of it. And granted, I think that they're both going to play this week. They'll take the next week off, and then they'll play Scottish Open, then the Open Championship. Maybe the 3M if they feel like they need to get in there and make some more points. But then they got the playoffs going, full steam ahead. So again, I like our American side quite a bit. I think that the Americans are starting to play better. But when you have the captain going out there and beating guys, getting wins before Morikawa and Cantlay, he's kind of sending a message to his team, boys, you better start playing better because I'm not going to go into that. I'm not going to go into said, I'd rather keep myself out of this mix, but right now you're kind of forcing me to put myself into this mix.
This episode of Taking It to the Streets is brought to you by Wrightwood Medical, the leader in used and refurbished medical equipment. Wrightwood specializes in ultrasound equipment, but can also be your vendor of choice when sourcing lower-cost alternatives for your operating room suites, scanning the entire medical spectrum. From single physician offices to larger hospitals, Wrightwood is the lower-cost solution for your everyday medical equipment needs, and all of Wrightwood's equipment comes with warranty. You can reach Wrightwood directly at www.wrightwoodmedical.com. That is with a W, WRIGHTWOOD medical, or 773-848-7100. Again, 773-848-7100. If it's used medical equipment, it's Wrightwood Medical.
I'm just a little surprised at how much you put into a golf winner versus a golf top 15 guy. Because again, you've got a team if we're going by winners for the current year, the guys that won, then your team's going to be JJ Spawn, Ben Griffin. These are guys that win. Scotty Scheffler. They probably haven't said a wrong answer yet. Those 3 guys are going to be
Russell Henley,
Henley. Okay.
Harris English.
There's nothing wrong with any of these guys. I mean, I'll go to battle with any of them.
Yeah.
But my point being, Rich, is I just think that the form of Patrick Cantlay is so good. And when you factor in that U.S. Open was at Oakmont, maybe the toughest venue in the world, and these other venues aren't chopped liver, and they're throwing in a Pete Dye course, which is all tricked up. In the last 5 weeks, if you were in form over the last 5 weeks, then you're in form. There's no but. You've been tested to the max. You've been taken to the brink. And I just think that Cantlay, and I get that he's going to Detroit, listen, he does have to make this team because the powers that be do want to see a 1 next to his name before they put him on the
Absolutely. And I'm not gonna and I want him on that team for sure.
But Rich, I think that you can't. You can't. My point being is that are you more impressed with Ben Griffin winning a non-elevated or Cantlay being in the top 15 over the last 5 weeks at all elevated and majors? I'm more impressed with the latter. Ben Griffin beating Matty Schmid does not blow me away as Patrick Cantlay, what he's done the last 5 weeks. That's just my opinion. So,
Ben?
you know, Ben Griffin winning the Zurich with Andrew Novak, which is one of his wins of the year.
Oh yeah, I don't count that as a win. I mean, granted, it's great to put on the resume. It's great. It's going to get you in a lot of things, but it's not necessarily a win in my mind's eye. Just because it's a team event and the team should have won. You ought to give them, yeah.
But Rich, the idea that we're going to go to battle with Ben Griffin over Patrick Cantlay to me seems flawed.
I listen. I think that Ben Griffin. I think Cantlay will be there as well as Griffin, but I disagree. I think that listen, if you ask Patrick Cantlay, are you happy about finishing top 15s? You got a bunch of top 15s going in there. You're playing great. Everything's going to be wonderful. You think he's not going to tell you, go pound sand? I want to win. Wins mean more to these guys than anything else. It has nothing to do with their top 15s. They're out there to do one thing and one thing only, and that's win every event that they can possibly win, teeing it up wise. Now, again, Sam Burns, same thing. I'd put him on my team. There'd be a couple of guys I'd leave out because I think you need a balance of rookies and guys that have been there before. But listen, I think that to discount anybody that's actually won versus a guy that hasn't, I think is I don't agree with that whatsoever because these guys live and breathe to go out there and win PGA Tour events. Nobody wants to go out there and say, listen, yeah, I've played great the last few weeks. I've made $3.5 million. Because I finished the top 5 in 4 events that have no cut. I don't know. If you're winning the ones that don't have a cut, that's different. But going out there and having a nice week where you're gonna be successful no matter what, you're gonna play well. You're gonna make a bunch of money anyways. I think these guys are dying for a win and not getting a win probably burns them up pretty bad. I know that Patrick and JJ would have spent some time as juniors playing golf, and they partnered each other in college. I guarantee you that Cantlay got a fire lit up his ass because JJ went out there and won the U.S. Open. The only guy that starts off with 5 straight 5s and still wins the U.S. Open. That's unbelievable. He came back and he never gave up, and everybody else around him faltered. Again, I think that winning is everything, every single thing to these guys. And I'm going back to the fact that Keegan Bradley, our captain, he's gone out there and won. And I think that's a big deal. I think that's a big deal for these guys and him, Keegan playing with Morikawa and Cantlay this week. I guarantee it's sending a message. I guarantee it. Keegan says, I want to play with these two guys because I want to make sure that they are both on my team. And the way that they can solidify being on my team is by winning. That's where you get the maximum amount of points.
Is it safe to say the winner of that threesome, provided it's a top 10 finish, makes the Ryder Cup team? Bradley go into it with that kind of mindset?
I wouldn't think so.
How does he evaluate himself? How does he know? If not to go into it this weekend at the Rocket Mortgage in Detroit and say, you know what, I'm playing with 2 guys that are on the fence. And really, the best of the 3 of us should make the team. I got news for you. I don't know how good of a year Morikawa's having, Rich. There's a little.
Oh, I listen. I don't think he's having. Not by.
It's the same year Xander.
He finished runner up. Yeah, he finished runner up at the. He finished runner up at Bay Hill, losing to Henley, and so I know that's probably going to fire him up pretty much. Let's go see how he's been playing this year. Off the top of my head, it's been fine. I don't think it's not by his standards what he's been after. That's for sure. Runner up of the century, Arnold Palmer runner up, a bunch of top 10s, but as of late, he hasn't had a top 10 since the Players. So,
and who are you referencing there?
That's Morikawa. He's 6 right now.
Xander took some time off. I think he had an injury earlier on in the season, got off to a late jump. He's been a shadow of himself since he won the Olympics, as far as I'm concerned. There's Cantlay on this team.
Well, but Xander, he stayed out, what, 3 months this year because of injuries? So, I mean, again, I'm not worried about Xander. I'm still going to take Xander. I'm glad that he's second because he brings leadership. And here's the thing that we don't talk about, too, when it comes to the Ryder Cup. Listen, you can have a great you don't have to have a great season going in it. But listen, what they don't have is they know exactly how it feels to stand on that tee box and have a partner sitting there next to you. And they understand what it's going to take to go out there and win. I mean, if you want to talk about something, Scotty Scheffler and Sam Burns got completely shellacked last time they were in Rome. They got beat, 9-7? Something like that? Wow. Now that's going to, where is that going to sit in somebody's head? But again, we don't talk about Scotty Scheffler not being up there because I think Scotty is going to take that, what had happened, and he's going to come out there like, that is never going to happen again. I'm going to do everything I possibly can. So there's more intangibles I think that go into some of this stuff. And again, I think that both that Morikawa and Cantlay are going to be. I'd be shocked if they're not, whether or not they play their way into the top 12. But right now, Patrick's 14th, Morikawa's 6th. So I think Morikawa is just fine. But he got 6 picks. Anything if other guys got hot and they floundered, you could kind of you can maybe look past them a little bit. So I don't know. I think that there's still plenty of golf to play before we finally say, okay, this is going to be the core 6. I think we've got 3 of them that are already tied up there. Scotty, Xander, and JJ are already locks. I imagine Russell's a lock. Bryson, Skippy, I'm going to have him on my team. I think the top 6 are already locks. Justin Thomas, I think they're all locks. And after that, I've got a couple more locks. But there's more time to go in the season. And I think that it'll shake itself out by, when are they picking by? Is it right after the Tour Championship, I think?
Correct. All right, Beemer. Do you have your selections for this week?
I do, and I'm again. This is kind of an interesting phenomenon. Just so everybody knows, I've never been to Detroit, or I've been to Detroit, but I haven't been to this tournament. I haven't seen this golf course. I don't know. I know it's a Donald Ross course. I've heard that it's a lot of fun. I've heard that and I've seen in the years gone by, you need to make birdies. You need to make birdies in streaks. But to be fair, I don't know what to make of it. I don't know. I've seen different types of guys win it. Ricky Fowler has won it, and then last year Cam Young won it. Not Cam Young. Cam Trillier. Cantner. Or not something. He's not. Now, who's the defending champion? Cam Smith, Jerry Davis, and Dan Davis. There's so many Cameron and Smiths and Youngs and Davises. Anyway, so I'm just picking out guys that I know that can make birdies. And I think one guy starting to play a hell of a lot better. So that's kind of me my picks. I'm literally doing it by kind of blind a little bit, but you never know. Because last week, both of our horses they went to the glue factory pretty early, didn't they? And they were just, George Spieth, he withdrew. That sucked to say. That was good. And then Ricky Fowler didn't play very good either. I'm kind of going, man, I thought Ricky was going to be so dialed in and ready to go. And I don't even know who my third one was. But I'm like, they're not ready.
So Beemers, give us who you like this week. Who is it?
Yeah, so I'm going to go with one of the guys I think is playing well. I think he's coming into this tournament with some form, and he's a European, and that's Matt Fitzpatrick. He's starting to play a little bit better. He's starting to kind of show signs of life. I think that, what a great way to kind of cap off his little run over here in the U.S. before he goes back over to Europe for a little while. I think Fitzpatrick. I got Eric Van Rooyen. This guy, when he gets on a roll, man, I tell you, that hole must look the size of a barrel. The guy just can't miss. Eric Van Rooyen, and then I'm going to go with the Mr. 35 under par, Hideki Matsuyama. Again, he looks like he's kind of getting back in form just a little bit. And And I just, the guy can just reel off birdies when he starts to feel it. Hopefully he's feeling it this week because, I think it's an important week for all these guys for different reasons. But Fitzpatrick and Matsuyama, most specifically, getting into shape, getting into form for another, 4 weeks time when they get over to Royal Portrush and hit the Open Championship.
All right. So my picks will be, of course, of the head-on nature. My theme, my thoughts for this week when I did my homework on the 3 picks was class relief. We've just gone through the depths, as the beginning of the podcast told you. We have gone through the depths of hell. We've walked through the shadows of hell, where we have gone through courses that take no mercy, and we are at the par. We're in a valley right now. We're on an easier part. We are coming to an impasse from a place that was so brutal. So I'm going to be apologetic to guys that I think were in over their heads for the past 5 weeks, but still represented themselves okay. Given
Are you picking Akshay Bhatia again?
I am. I know it's really becoming a joke. It's becoming a joke. It's becoming for exactly those reasons. If you're going to take them at the truest, and you're going to take them the U.S. Open or the PGA, that you have to have them.
You got in Detroit.
I'm sorry. You have to. Akshay, if you're watching this, man, there comes a time where you have to step up for taking it to the streets. Who's been behind you? So with that said, it's embarrassing, but we're gonna do it one more time. We'll take Akshay Bhatia plus 100. Vegas has turned their back on you. Now you're getting free juice against Davis Thompson. So Akshay over Davis Thompson is our first one. The quintessential guy to me that's really going to appreciate some class relief is Minwoo Lee. This is a guy I've forgotten about because of what's occurred over the past 5 weeks. And if you look at strokes gained total, he has not gained strokes in 5 weeks, but in 3 of the 5 at the U.S. Open and at the PGA, he lost 1.2 strokes combined over the 2 tournaments. That's not bad.
Yeah,
at all. That's wrong.
And his sister won last week. That's gonna fire him up a little bit.
Yeah. So I think and Minwoo Lee got paired off against Beemer's guy, Fitzpatrick, but I'm gonna take Minwoo Lee plus 115 over Fitzpatrick. And the last one, it's now or never. I just took his back, like we were arguing, Inherit the Wind. Patrick Cantlay plus 105 over Morikawa.
Oh, you're taking
one thing I know about Patrick Cantlay. He likes to be a dog. Now, you will tell me, of course, you and everybody else in the PGA will tell me that these guys don't look at their odds against each other in head-ons. I will disagree to the nines. It's like telling me that if you're on a weight loss program, you don't look at the scale. How you don't look at DraftKings or FanDuel and see how you are priced against someone else in an age where gambling's legal, to me, is insane. I think they were looking at it years before that, decades before that. You'll tell me they don't look, but that's fine. I do think they look, and it's legal to look. So
it is legal to look. Funny enough, the only time I ever looked at it was when I was over the Open Championship where they had betting partners right there. I would actually be very interested to know, because funny enough, a guy that I used to work with, kind of a psychologist type guy, still a good buddy of mine, he would look at the odds and say, "Can you believe this guy his odds are better than yours?" I'm like, why would I give a shit about that? Like, I'm not out there thinking about him. I'm out there thinking about everybody. That's interesting. I don't know. I'm going to ask around on that. I'm going to see how many guys actually look at.
You're going to look in there until the picture doesn't know that he's plus 105 against Morikawa.
You know what? To be fair, I'd be surprised if he did. I just don't think that he cares enough. It's very interesting. I'm going to sniff around and I'm going to ask caddies more than anything else, because I don't think the players I want to talk to. But I'm going to ask and see if these guys think that their players look at their odds. I'm interested to find out. I'm going to say no, they don't as much as you think they might, but I'd be curious to know if I'm wrong. I'd be curious to know if I'm wrong.
Beemer, one more time with your picks, because you're developing a following.
Yeah.
I get texts all the time about who you like.
Fitzpatrick, Van Rooyen, and Matsuyama are my 3 picks. But my one of my picks is going against one of your picks. So hopefully I'm right.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Cantlay over Morikawa, Akshay over Davis Thompson, Min Woo Lee, not Minji Lee, but Min Woo Lee over Fitzpatrick.
I'm going to get you something signed by Akshay sooner than later because
We're slid by this kid, and I know you. So and taking, I'll take the abuse. What am I missing, Beemer, about how great Akshay is? What the hell am I missing that he's not a true up and comer and that he deserves what I'm giving him? Cantlay deserves it, but you won't.
The one thing that I'm seeing with Akshay is that he doesn't know how to. Everything he does is full bore. I haven't seen a ton of instances where he is able to take a shot and knock it down, keep it low, take spin off of it, things like that. It seems like there's a lot of times where, like at the US Open, I saw a couple of times pins all the way back and he takes out a sand wedge and knocks it all the way back and it comes spinning all the way up the front of the green where you got to kind of, feed one in there, so to speak. I haven't quite seen that from him yet. Again, he's got all the talent in the world. I've been watching him since he was a teenager and decided to forego college golf and turn professional, which I thought was amazing. I'd never seen a kid do that before. Now I think we're going to see more kids doing that. But I don't see him as a player that has that ability as of yet. But again, he's a young, raw talent that I think will eventually get there. And I think we'll then see him be a top 10 player in the world. But I still think he's got a lot to learn out there. Hey, and I don't think that's being unfair or harsh.
Beemer, his comp is Neiman, correct? Didn't Neiman also not go to college and they're just about the same age? The question then being, is he
Shoot different? Yeah.
Is he as good as Neiman?
Not right now. No. Not right now.
Is that the correct comp? As for the background?
To be fair, I didn't even know Joaquin's Neiman background. But again, he comes from a different country where a lot of kids they're not looking to go to college. In fact, half of them down there don't even go to grade school, finish high school, I should say.
Right.
I think that if you look at Joaquin, he understands how to play the game a little more. He understands how to take spin off of it. And he understands how to kind of work the golf ball a little bit more. Akshay is getting better at it, but I still think he gets, he's always trying to force a club in there when he should be kind of taking one less club or one more club and just kind of feed it in there. But again, though, it's only a matter of time that he's going to, listen, I remember what happened when I got that shot last time when I was in contention, and this is the result. I've got to do something different to make this golf ball react different. Yeah, and again, he's a hell of a talent, and he's going to win a ton more events.
We started the show talking about Lou Graham, foreigner. We end this show. I was at lunch today with my wife at Jimmy John's, knocking down a couple of nice Pepes. Pull out in the parking lot afterwards, in the spirit of this conversation about Akshay Bhatia, Blind Faith, Can't Find My Way Home was playing. So Akshay, with me, it's Blind Faith for you. For you, I'm worried it's Can't Find My Way Home. We're going to see you next week on Taking It to the Streets, Beemer. I think that was the way to go.
All right, brother. Thanks so much. That was awesome.
Goodbye from St. Pete. And remember, folks, you're only as good as your last trade. So never too high, never too low, till we meet again.